What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, we'll be joined by Mike Richman from Locked On Blazers. The Portland Trailblazers are off to a 3-0 start in their NBA campaign behind a pair of back-to-back 41-point performances from Damian Lillard and some help by the LA Lakers down the stretch of their most recent outing to secure their third win on the season. Just how good has Dame looked to start the year? Some timely contributions, if maybe some inconsistent support from Dame's supporting cast. We're going to break it all down for you coming up in just a second after a quick message from our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for betting football and for the start of a brand new basketball campaign. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every single game that you can get your hands on. As always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every single sport out there. They've got you covered for NFL, they've got you covered for college football, NBA, MLB postseason, all the fighting odds, UFC, MMA, boxing, you name it, they've got you covered over at BetOnline. Right now, you can go take a look at who the odds-on favorites are to be this year's NBA Finals matchup. You got to predict the exact matchup right now. The favorites at the top of the list, Boston Celtics versus Golden State Warriors, a repeat of last year's finals matchup. Then after them, you got Boston Celtics versus LA Clippers at plus 1,700. You got the Bucks versus Warriors at plus 1,750. The Bucks versus the LA Clippers at plus 1,900. And then rounding out the top five, the sleeper candidate here, you've got the Brooklyn Nets versus Golden State Warriors at plus 2,100. So for all of those odds and more, be sure to check out betonline.net to learn more about the trends in action available to you. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Joining us now is Mike Richman from Locked On Blazers. You can follow on Twitter at Mike G. Rich, Mike, back-to-back games for Damian Lillard with 41-point performances. Blazers improving to 3-0 to start this young NBA season. Is it safe to say Damian Lillard is back?
He never went anywhere.
Okay.
He never went anywhere. He played hurt last year and he looked terrible and he averaged 24 and 6. He was awful last year and he averaged 24 and 6. I've been saying a bunch on the show. He's healthy. He says he's healthy. If he's healthy, he's going to be one of the best 5 offensive players in the league. He's had back-to-back 41-point performances, dragging his team across the finish line with a little bit of help from his friends. He never went anywhere. Don't call it a comeback.
All right, maybe calling it a comeback is the wrong terminology here, but I will have to say, again, these games have been just so impressive for him down the line, putting away the Lakers. I believe it was a 16-6 run, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of the Blazers-Lakers game to be able to, take their third W of the season. What are you seeing from Dame as he's kind of navigating these first early few games of the season?
Well, admittedly, he wasn't very good in the opener. He shot poorly and he didn't beat up the Kings the way you would think. And then it was like, that did spark the oh no, is he 32? Has he reached the point where he's just too old?
All the doubters started chirping. Yeah.
Yeah. Particularly one famous one who runs a website with a green logo, but they've been really good at getting him off the ball early in games, something that he has not really wanted to do much in his career. And they've been good at just sort of prioritizing him getting off the ball. And then he just is who he is. He wants to run spread, pick and roll. He wants to screen and rescreen and say, you can't guard me. If you send 2 to the ball, I'll get it out of my hands quickly. And if you don't send 2 to the ball, I'm going to burn Lonnie Walker to the ground. And that's what he's done. He just is who he is. He's shot it really well. He's looked like himself. And I do think there's been a little bit of X's and O stuff to get him some easier shots, but that mostly goes away in crunch time. And they've played a game that they won in overtime against Phoenix. And then in the final seconds, thanks in large part, let's be clear, to the Lakers blowing it. The Lakers blew this game and Damian Lillard just said, cool, if you don't want to win, I'd be happy to win this one.
The Lakers were desperately trying to snatch defeat and successfully so from the jaws of victory in this game. Kudos to them. It was a masterful job. Credit to some late game decision making by one Russell Westbrook here in this one. Some questionable at best shots. You talked about some of Dame's friends, if you will, on this roster, his supporting cast. It feels like it's maybe been a bit of a mixed bag throughout this early part of the season where you've had some games where Nurkic will step up or Jerami Grant has a good game, but it doesn't really feel like there's a level of consistency amongst the supporting cast at that point. Is that a fair kind of assumption to make?
Absolutely. I would say if there's like, the Blazers are 3-0, and like I'm going to over on Locked On Blazers, we're going to be happy about undefeated start of the season. But like realistically, I don't think Dame scoring 41 in back-to-back games is like a good formula. Like I don't necessarily think like this level of him, he's great, but this level of ask is probably a little too much for him. Anthony Simons has struggled in back-to-back games against Phoenix and LA. It's just against Phoenix. He had a huge big three late, and then the game winner. When you score when it matters, it feels a lot better. Jerami Grant did not look good against Phoenix. Wasn't playing particularly well, like wasn't having a super loud game against the Lakers, and then hits the game winner on the block. I think if there's a theme of this season, it's that Dame has been spectacular. And then in moments where you would think he would do kind of ball huggy stuff, he said, I got to trust these guys, and the trust has paid off to the tune of 2 close wins.
When you're looking at the supporting cast and kind of the guys who are going to need to step up over the course of the season, is there something specific that you're going to be looking for out of guys like Jerami Grant, out of guys like Anthony Simons, as far as just their consistency factor moving forward in these next few games, something that you really want to see improve early, over this early portion of the season?
Anthony Simons, Ant in our world. Anthony Simons is, I know that's controversial on the big show. I know he's not the right Ant, but Anthony Simons is shooting bricks. Like, I don't think there's a lot to adjust. He's shooting bricks. He shot 0 for 6 from 3 tonight. 3 of them are just cashable shots he can make. He's talked a little bit about adjusting to playing an off the ball role, but I don't even know if I buy that. Like, he's missing some shots he can make. And if he makes some of those shots, it's different. Against Phoenix, or even in the opener, he was 3 of 10 from 3. He missed a couple easy ones. Like he's capable of shooting better. I don't think you need to adjust much with Ant, except like ball go in. The biggest adjustment you can do is like play better. With Jerami Grant, it's different. They don't know how to get him in the offense as cleanly as they should. They are trying a bunch of cross screen stuff to get him in the post and isolating him in the mid post. That's just a hard way to score in the league. It's easy to send double teams. It's less space. It's all those things. They got to figure out ways to get him more comfortable, easier shots. He was excellent in game 1. He hasn't been nearly as good in games 2 and 3. And some of that is I just don't think the team and Jerami have figured out where he's going to get his shots in the offense.
There were some question marks kind of over the summer leading up to the draft, what the Blazers were going to do with that pick. They ultimately selected Shaedon Sharpe. And even going into the season, there were some questions. Is Shaedon Sharpe really like NBA ready? Is he ready to be a contributor for this Blazers team? What have been your takeaways about his performances so far to start the season?
I mean, he was great in his debut. He looked really comfortable and really good, and he made all 3 of his threes. And like I said, ball go in. When the ball goes in, everybody looks better. He looked really good and really comfortable. And like a 19-year-old with very little seasoning looking that comfortable is like, okay, this, when this guy learns how to play this basketball at this level, he's going to be really special. He struggled in the next 2 games and he looked like a teenager playing in the NBA. Like it's just, you cover the Rockets. You've seen the highs and lows of young guys figuring out. When they look good, they look great. When they look young, it's like, oh yeah, like he should be a freshman in college. Like I totally
he's 19.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Sharpe, like this Laker game is a perfect example. He had a fast break dunk where he threw down an alley-oop and he jumped, 12 feet in the air. Like he caught the ball at 13 feet. He had a block that was called a goaltend where he caught the ball at the top of the square. He had a steal from LeBron that showed some good defensive anticipation. But he also just had some, the ball taken from him a couple of times, beat up a little bit on defense. Like he's up and down a little bit. But I would say the early returns are that he doesn't look totally out of place. And if you can get away with getting a young guy seasoning and you can win and play a teenager at the same time, that's wonderful for the team. So I would say early returns pretty much positive and some growing pains you would expect.
Look, we're only 3 games in, Mike, but has this 3-game start for the Blazers maybe changed your perception at all about what this team can be this season?
Yeah, you see the vision. I thought this was like somewhere between 7 and 10, and now I've bumped them all the way up to between 6 and 10 in the West. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, like you could see the vision. Their defense looks better. They're playing a bunch of zone, which I thought they would do. And the zone looks so much more connected than it was. It's just like having better defensive players out on the court is really valuable. And they do this year. The offense is still kind of a work in progress, but you have Damian Lillard, you're going to be okay. If the offense comes around, the defense kind of stays where it is, where they look competitive. There's some moments where it doesn't look competitive. You watch that Laker game, LeBron James had a go-ahead dunk where literally no one guarded him with under 10 seconds left. That's it was kind of wild. Like I don't think we'll see many defensive possessions across the league like that for the remainder of the year. So they obviously have some ways to go, but like you can like beyond that, you can see the vision on defense where they've made improvements there. They look like they've made improvements there. And yeah, like 82-0 still on the table, Jackson.
How far can Damian Lillard lead this Blazers team this season? How much help can he continue to get from the supporting cast? Hey, if they keep, paying off in big moments late in games like against the Suns and like against the Lakers, then that's all you really need. You're going to have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Blazers. Mike, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Thanks for having me.